The joy of arriving in a new place evokes a unique feeling in everyone. Emily Carter was no exception. In search of a quiet place to write, she moved to a small village in New England. Away from the bustle of the city, the old Victorian house standing by the mountain road seemed mysterious but quite appealing to her. On the first day, as she opened the door and stepped inside, a cool breeze touched her skin. The house was silent, but there was an odd sensation lingering in the air, like she wasn't alone in the house. As evening came, everything began to feel more unusual. The clock on the wall ticked, but time seemed to have stopped. From the kitchen came faint sounds of breathing, and in front of the mirror, something like a shadow appeared suddenly. Even the curtains moved strangely through the open window. Altogether, Emily felt there was something there. Something invisible, which couldn't be seen but could be clearly felt. So far, the spirit hadn't attacked or harmed her, but Emily felt as if she wasn't alone. The house seemed to be haunted by a solitary spirit, an invisible presence, felt but never seen. As the night grew deeper, Emily's discomfort increased. She tried to convince herself that it was all in her imagination. Such feelings were normal when coming to a new place, but the stillness in the room was occasionally broken by strange noises, a faint muffled sound coming from beneath the floor, as if someone was walking softly. Emily initially ignored it. She sat at her desk, trying to draft her new novel, but she couldn't focus. Again and again, she felt as if someone was standing right behind her, watching her. Frustrated, she turned her chair and looked behind her. The room was empty. She got up and opened the window. Cold air rushed in, along with the faint rustling of leaves from somewhere. She saw her reflection in the window, but suddenly it felt like another shadow appeared on the other side of the glass. Faint, yet clearly not hers. Her breath caught in her throat. She quickly closed the window and turned around. The room was completely still, but in the air, there was still a heavy, unsettling presence. That night, although she tried to sleep, Emily couldn't find any peace. The occasional whispers coming from the corner of the room. Sometimes the faint sound of the door's latch creaking open. Everything together made her feel that the house was indeed not empty. The next morning, she went to the local cafe and met an elderly man, Mr. Johnson, who knew a lot about the area. Emily asked him, "Do you know anything about this house?" The old man stared at her for a long moment, as if trying to recall something. After a pause, he slowly spoke. "You may not have heard of Mary Henry's story, but she never left this house." Hearing Mr. Johnson's words, a chill ran down Emily's spine. She never left this house. What could that mean? Unable to suppress her curiosity, she asked, "Who was Mary Henry?" The elderly man began to speak in a low voice. "Many years ago, a woman named Mary Henry lived in this house. She was beautiful but very lonely. Her husband left her and moved to another town, and she lived here alone. One day, she suddenly disappeared. No one ever found her, and her body was never found. The police said she must have left on her own, but we know she never left this house." Emily's throat dried up. "Are you saying her spirit is still here?" Mr. Johnson silently nodded. "Over the years, everyone who has come to live here has felt something. Some have seen her shadow, others have heard the whispers. But she has never harmed anyone. Perhaps she wants to say something, but she can't." Emily fell deep in thought. Maybe what she had experienced the previous night wasn't just her imagination. That night, Emily sat in the house's library, rummaging through old books and documents. To learn about the history of the house, she had brought some papers from the local records. She was startled when she found an old newspaper clipping. Mary Henry missing. The police found no clues. Neighbors had last seen her standing by the window, her eyes vacant, as if she were searching for someone. Suddenly, Emily noticed something move outside the window. She slowly approached the glass. The cold air had left a foggy layer on the glass. Emily wiped it with her hand. At that moment, a chilling sensation brushed her skin. For a brief moment, a faint face appeared on the other side of the glass. The face of a woman. Her eyes were filled with deep sorrow, as if she wanted to say something. Terrified, Emily stepped back, but within moments, the reflection disappeared. She felt that Mary was indeed here, and she wanted Emily to know her story. Emily's heart was pounding. She quickly closed the window, but it felt as though someone was still watching her, an invisible presence whose cold touch she could feel on her skin. She tried to calm her mind. Perhaps all of this was just her imagination, but her subconscious knew this was not a mere figment of her imagination. The next morning, she decided to go to the local archive office to search for old documents. Among the many ancient files, one folder stopped her in her tracks: Mary Henry's death certificate. But something didn't quite add up. There was no record of Mary Henry's death, yet here was her death certificate. The paper read, "Mary Henry, officially declared dead, 1923, body not found." Emily's throat went dry as she trembled. Could she really be? That night, Emily began searching around the house, feeling that the answers were hidden here. Suddenly, in a corner of the library, she noticed strange marks on the old wooden floor, as if it had been altered later. Her curiosity reached its peak. She grabbed a knife and began prying at the wood. Within moments, she discovered a hidden door beneath the floor. As she opened the door, dust flew up, and a terrifying truth emerged from the darkness. Below was a narrow, damp brick room, and in one corner of the room, a dried-up skeleton lay, dressed in women's clothing. Emily's breath caught in her throat. This was Mary Henry's body. For all these years, it had been buried beneath the house, and no one knew. At that moment, a whispering voice echoed in her ear, a woman's voice. "You found me! Now will you set me free?" Emily turned around. A faint shadow slowly began to dissolve into the air. Emily's body froze. The whisper still echoed in her ear. "You found me? Now will you set me free?" Before her lay Mary's skeleton, and behind her, the shadow slowly became clearer. It was Mary. Her face was pale, her eyes deep and sorrowful, yet there was no anger, only a plea. Emily realized that for all these years, Mary's spirit had been trapped in the house because no one had ever discovered her true fate. Emily contacted the local police. When the investigation began, it was revealed that Mary's husband had brutally murdered her and hidden her body in this secret room. He had later fled the town, and the incident was slowly forgotten. When the police unearthed the skeleton, something remarkable happened. After that night, no strange occurrences took place in Emily's house. No more shadows, no more whispers, and the sorrowful face no longer appeared in the mirror. That night, Emily sat by the window, looking up at the sky. The cold breeze blew, but there was no longer any haunting sensation. Suddenly, for a brief moment, a reflection appeared in the window, Mary with a peaceful smile. Then it slowly faded away, as if it had merged with the air forever. Emily took a deep breath. She knew that Mary had finally found peace. Afterward, Emily left the old house, but before she left, she wrote and published Mary's story. Her book became popular, and many people came to know Mary's name. Since then, no one ever felt an invisible presence in that house again. And that was how the story ended. If you liked this story, be sure to like the video, share if you've had any similar experiences, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more terrifying tales. Thank you, and take care.